What would you do if the man you loved looked at you 8 months pregnant with his child and told you that you were no longer beautiful? What if, instead of holding your hand, he handed you a check and called your unborn son the child? That same night, abandoned, heartbroken and completely alone, her water broke in a parking garage during a storm. With only 6% battery left on her phone, Sofia Morgan thought she was losing everything. But what she didn't know was that the man who threw her away would spend years begging for a place in the life she was about to build. And when he finally saw her again, standing beside the son he abandoned and the man who truly loved her, the truth hit him harder than any punishment ever could. This is the unforgettable story of the woman who turned heartbreak into an empire. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Alcot Stories. I'm your storyteller, James. Before we begin, take a moment and tell us in the comments, what would you do if the person you loved abandoned you when you needed them the most? Would you forgive them or walk away forever? And if you enjoy emotional, inspiring and life-changing stories about love, heartbreak, betrayal, and second chances, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that touches the heart. Now, get comfortable, because tonight's story will make you cry, make you angry, and remind you just how powerful one determined woman can be. Let's begin. Do you want to know what happens to a woman when she has absolutely nothing left to lose? She becomes everything she was always meant to be. The rain came down hard on Manhattan that night, not the soft, romantic kind, the kind that means something. Heavy, relentless, washing away everything that was never meant to stay. Sofia Morgan stood in the elevator of Ethan Cole's penthouse building, with one hand pressed against the mirrored wall and the other resting on her belly. 8 months, 32 weeks of growing a life inside her body, while the man who put it there had been slowly, quietly checking out of their relationship like it was a hotel he was done paying for. She looked at herself in the mirror, box braids pinned up, a few loose strands near her jaw. Deep brown eyes that looked more tired than she wanted to admit. Red lipstick still perfect, because Sofia Morgan did not leave the house without her red lipstick. Not even tonight. Not even when something in her chest had been whispering for weeks that tonight was going to change everything. She had ignored that whisper. She wished she hadn't. The elevator opened directly into Ethan's penthouse. White marble floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows bleeding Manhattan light across every surface. A fireplace burning in the corner that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. Everything perfect, everything cold, everything exactly like him. Ethan stood by the windows, ice blue eyes catching the city light, dirty blonde hair, not one strand out of place. His navy blue tailored suit still perfectly pressed, Patek Philippe watch glinting as he lifted his Scotch glass and turned toward her. He was, objectively, the most handsome man she had ever loved. She was beginning to understand that beauty and goodness had nothing to do with each other. "You came," he said. "You asked me to," she replied. She sat on the edge of the white sofa, not comfortably, just perched. The way a woman sits when her body already knows she won't be staying long. Her ankles were swollen, her back had ached since Tuesday. The baby had been pressing against her ribs all day, and she pressed her palm gently against her belly. "It's okay, I've got you." She wasn't sure she believed it yet, but she said it anyway. Ethan looked at her, not the way he used to. Not the way he had looked at her 3 years ago at that Chicago conference, crossing an entire room full of more important people just to reach her. Not with warmth, not with anything she recognized. He looked at her the way he looked at quarterly reports that disappointed him. "We need to talk about expectations," he said. Sophia's stomach tightened. Not a contraction, something older. Instinct. "Okay," she said. He set his glass down, turned fully toward her. Hands in his pockets, shoulders squared, the posture of a man giving a presentation rather than talking to the woman carrying his child. "Sofia, you're not what you used to be." The words landed like something physical. She didn't flinch, didn't give him the reaction he had so carefully set up to receive. She had learned over 3 years that Ethan Cole fed on reactions the way other men fed on approval. "Say what you actually mean," she said quietly. He gestured, that casual, dismissive sweep of his hand that took in all of her, her braids, her belly, her swollen ankles. "You've changed. Significantly, the weight, the skin, the exhaustion. You fall asleep in conversations. You're not the woman I started this relationship with, and frankly, I can't keep pretending otherwise. Sofia looked at him for a long, still moment. She thought about the 43 pounds her doctor called perfectly healthy. She thought about the skin changes the pregnancy books said were temporary. She thought about the exhaustion that came from spending every hour keeping a human being alive inside her body while managing a household and a relationship with a man who scheduled her like a calendar appointment. "I'm pregnant," she said. "With your child. This is what that looks like." "I know." He moved to his desk, opened the drawer, pulled out a checkbook. "Which is why I'm handling this responsibly." The sound of the pen on paper filled the room. Sofia watched his hand move. That steady, controlled hand that had once held hers across a restaurant table and made her feel like the most seen woman in any room. And she felt something inside her chest begin to crack. Not break, not yet. Just crack, the way ice does before it gives way. He held the check toward her across the desk. 15,000, first month's support. "My lawyer will draw up a formal arrangement. The child will have everything it needs." The child, not their son, not Liam, not even his name, which she had told Ethan 3 weeks ago and which he had clearly filed somewhere he never intended to return. To the child, Sofia stood up, 8 months pregnant, back aching, ankles swollen, and she stood up straight, spine long, shoulders back. The way her mother taught her before her mother was gone. "His name," she said, "is Liam." Ethan looked up, slightly impatient, slightly bored. "Whatever helps you, Sofia." Something in her went very quiet and very clear. "You are paying me to disappear," she said. "That's not. That is exactly what this is." She looked at the check in his hand. "You want me gone, you want me manageable, and you think money does that." He said nothing because she was right, and they both knew it. Sofia picked up her purse, smoothed her dress, looked at him one last time across the white marble floor. "You are going to regret this," she said, not with anger. Something quieter and therefore more final. "Not today, maybe not this year. But someday when you're sitting in a room full of everything money can buy, you're going to remember this moment. And you're going to wish you had been a different kind of man." He laughed short, dismissive. "Already over it, Sofia. Don't be dramatic." She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed between them. She made it to the parking garage, all the way to her car, her 6-year-old Honda Civic that she had kept even after Ethan suggested she upgrade, because something in her had always needed something that was entirely, unquestionably hers. She put her bag in the trunk, got behind the wheel, hands at 10 and 2, then she felt it. A pop, low and sudden, followed by warmth spreading through her leggings. No. Her phone. 6% battery. She dialed 911 with shaking fingers. "My water broke. I'm 32 weeks pregnant and I'm alone in a parking garage and my water broke. Ambulance is 20 minutes out. Can you get to a hospital?" 20 minutes. Detroit Medical Center was 12 minutes away. She had driven the route 3 times, practicing, because Sofia prepared for everything. Everything except the night the man she loved would write her a check and call their son, and laugh when she told him he'd regret it. "I can drive myself," she said. She hung up, started the car. A contraction moved through her body. Not fully painful yet, just a deep tightening, her body beginning work it had been preparing for months. She breathed through it, put the car in drive. The rain was still falling, of course it was. Sofia drove through Manhattan through rain and contractions and the quiet collapse of everything she had believed her life was going to be. Her phone died somewhere on the highway. She didn't care. She knew the way. The hospital emergency entrance glowed through the rain like a destination she had been walking toward without knowing it. She parked across 2 spaces, grabbed her purse, left the bag, walked through the automatic doors. Water broke. 32 weeks. A nurse was already moving. Wheelchair. Monitors. Questions Sofia answered on autopilot. No partner, no family, no one coming. They wheeled her to labor and delivery, and in the middle of the beeping machines and the fluorescent lights, she heard it for the first time clearly, her son's heartbeat coming through the monitor, strong, steady, perfect, and Sofia came apart, not from sadness, from the overwhelming, uncontrollable realization that this heartbeat, this life, was real. This was hers. This was the only thing from that entire night that was completely unquestionably real. She was still crying when Bethany James walked in, 52 years old. Elaborate braids, name tag slightly crooked, warm dark brown eyes that had seen every kind of human pain this hospital offered and had somehow never hardened. She looked at Sofia, took in the whole picture without a word. Then she crossed the room and took her hand. "I know it hurts, baby, but you're doing so good." "I'm completely alone," Sofia whispered. Bethany's grip tightened, steady and sure. "You've got me now. I'm here for the next 12 hours and I'm not leaving. You hear me? You are not alone." Sofia held her hand like a lifeline because that was exactly what it was. At 3:47 in the morning, rain still hitting the windows, Bethany's hand still in hers, Sofia pushed one final time and then there was a cry, sharp, furious. Indignant at being pulled from somewhere warm, they placed him on her chest, tiny, impossibly tiny, warm and perfect and screaming like he had arrived with something to prove. Dark curls damp against his small head, fists clenched tight, and his eyes, when he opened them and found her face, his father's blue eyes in his mother's face. Sofia wrapped both arms around him and cried from somewhere foundational. "From the place where your most important beliefs about yourself live. Hi, baby," she whispered against his curls. "Hi, Liam, I'm your mama, I've got you." He turned toward her voice, immediate, instinctive. Like he had always known her, Bethany stood at the foot of the bed with her hand pressed to her mouth, watching a woman become something entirely new in real time. "Look at that boy," she managed softly. "He is something special. You both are." At 6 a.m., a hospital administrator arrived with paperwork. Father's name. Sofia paused. She could leave it blank. She had every right to. The man had written her a check called their son and laughed when she warned him. She picked up the pen. She wrote Ethan Cole in careful, deliberate letters. Because whatever Ethan was, whatever he had done, Liam deserved to know the full truth of himself. And Sofia Morgan was not going to let her anger make her son's story smaller than it was. That was her first decision as a mother. Later that morning, Liam sleeping against her chest with the complete trust of someone who had never once doubted he was safe, Sofia opened her email with one hand and found a message from her old boss, Michelle. "Sofia, if you ever want freelance work, the door is open." She looked at her son, his perfect sleeping face, his tiny fist curled against her collarbone like he was holding on. She typed back, "I'm available immediately. Send me everything." She hit send. Outside the window, Manhattan was waking up. The rain had finally stopped. The sky was doing that thing it sometimes does after a hard storm, turning a color between gray and gold, like the world was deciding what kind of day it wanted to be. Sofia Morgan had already decided. She had walked into that hospital with 6% battery, a broken heart, and a son who arrived 8 weeks early because he had already inherited her refusal to wait. She walked out 3 days later with a purpose that had no name yet, but felt like something enormous moving quietly beneath the surface. Somewhere behind her, a man in a navy blue suit was pouring his morning coffee in a perfect penthouse, completely unaware that the woman he dismissed had already begun. And somewhere ahead of her, in a city she hadn't reached yet, in a life she couldn't see yet, a man was going to find her story, not to rescue her, but because something in him recognized, even from a distance, that this woman was worth paying attention to. He just didn't know her name yet. Some people break under pressure. Some people were always diamonds. They just needed the pressure to prove it. 14 months after the night everything broke, Sofia Morgan was sitting on the floor of a 600-square-foot apartment in Midtown Manhattan at 2:47 in the morning, back against the wall, knees pulled up, a laptop balanced on her thighs. Liam asleep in his second-hand crib across the room, finally, mercifully asleep after 2 hours of crying that had made Sofia question every decision she had ever made in her entire adult life. The apartment was small. Cracked plaster on the ceiling, a radiator that clanked all night like it had opinions, a kitchen that was really just a corner with appliances pushed against a wall, a bathroom where the shower handle came off if you pulled it wrong. This was what she had. This was what she was building from. She looked at the laptop screen. A half-finished brand proposal for a small restaurant in Brooklyn glowed back at her, $3,000 if they accepted it. Enough to cover rent and groceries with a little left over. She had been working on it in 15-minute increments between feedings and diaper changes, and the kind of exhaustion that didn't respond to sleep because there wasn't enough sleep to respond to. She finished the proposal at 3:15 a.m., sent it, closed the laptop, looked at her son sleeping in his crib, his small chest rising and falling, dark curls soft against the mattress, one tiny fist near his cheek, and felt something move through her that was too complicated to name. Not happiness exactly, not yet. Something quieter. Something that felt like the first thin layer of something that would eventually become unbreakable. We're going to be okay, baby. I don't know how yet, but we are. The restaurant accepted the proposal by 9 a.m. Michelle sent 3 more clients by noon. By the time Liam was 2 months old, Sofia was working every nap time, every early morning, every late night after he went down. She wrote copy with him strapped to her chest in a carrier. She took client calls with him asleep in the bouncer beside her desk, one hand ready to rock it if he stirred. She edited campaigns at 4 a.m. by the light of her laptop while the rest of the city slept. She delivered everything on time. She delivered everything better than expected. And the work kept coming. Ethan's checks kept coming too. Every month. $15,000. Clean, impersonal, sent through his lawyer's office like a subscription payment. Like Sofia and Liam were a service he was maintaining rather than a woman and child he had walked away from. Sofia returned every single one. Each check came back with a message written across the front in black marker. Liam smiled at me this morning. A real smile, not gas. You weren't there. Liam has your eyes. He doesn't have a father. Liam took his first bath today. He hated it. You would have laughed. You'll never know. She knew it was partly anger. She knew the practical thing was to deposit the money, build the college fund, be sensible. But every returned check was a boundary she was drawing in permanent ink. A line between what she needed and what she refused to accept. She did not need Ethan Cole's money. She was going to prove that if it took the rest of her life. When Liam was 4 months old, Sofia landed the client that changed everything. A call came through Michelle's agency, a mid-size athletic apparel company looking for fresh brand strategy. Their current campaigns weren't connecting, numbers were flat. Their marketing director, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Kesha, had seen Sofia's work for the Brooklyn restaurant and wanted to talk. The video call was on a Tuesday. Liam was in his bouncer behind Sofia, visible in the background of her camera frame. She had debated moving him, decided against it. She was not going to pretend she wasn't a mother to make a client more comfortable. That was not the version of herself she was building. Your restaurant work, Kesha said, leaning forward on the screen. I loved the authenticity of it. Everything in our industry right now feels polished to the point of being fake. I want real. I want people to feel something. I can do real, Sofia said. Liam chose that exact moment to spit up spectacularly. Sofia didn't flinch, reached for the burp cloth beside her keyboard, cleaned him up in one smooth motion without breaking eye contact with the camera. Sorry, mom life. Kesha stared at her for a moment, then she laughed. A real surprised laugh. You know what? That! Right there. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Real bodies, real lives, real moments. Can you build me something around that? Sofia looked at her son, his gap-toothed almost smile, his father's blue eyes blinking up at her with complete uncomplicated trust. Yes, she said. I absolutely can. She spent the next 3 nap times building the pitch Real Bodies. Real Victory, the concept was clean, but it cut deep. Feature real people. Not fitness models who had never missed a workout, but actual human beings living actual lives. A marathon runner with thick thighs who crossed the finish line crying. A basketball player with acne scars who played every Saturday with his neighborhood kids. A mother, Sofia herself, in athletic wear, Liam on her hip mid-law, not posed, not perfect, just real. She presented it on a Thursday. Liam was teething. She had slept maybe 3 hours. She delivered that pitch like her life depended on it. Because it did, Kesha called back the next morning. You're hired. $85,000 for the full campaign. Start immediately. Sofia sat in her small, imperfect apartment and cried. Then she picked up Liam, spun him around until he laughed, that pure baby laugh that sounded like joy with no history attached to it yet. We did it, baby boy, she whispered. Mama just got us a future. That week, Sofia registered Walsh Collective LLC, opened a business bank account. Hired Maria, a college student from Wayne State who needed flexible hours and treated Liam like he was made of something precious. As a part-time sitter, things began to move. Slowly at first, then faster, then in a way that started to feel less like surviving and more like something else entirely. Meanwhile, across the city, Ethan Cole was burning, not dramatically, not all at once. The way expensive things burn, slowly from the inside, while still looking perfect on the outside. He had replaced Sofia within 3 months. A model named Vanessa who posted their relationship on Instagram and called him her king in captions that made his board members quietly uncomfortable. He had told himself he was fine. He had told himself he had made the right call. He had told himself Sofia would find someone at her level, as if there had been a level below his that she belonged on, and everything would work out practically and cleanly the way he had designed it to. He had been wrong about almost everything. 3 major clients quietly moved their accounts to smaller, hungrier agencies. His VP of marketing, a sharp woman named Dana who had been with Cabay Industries for 6 years, resigned without a counteroffer conversation, which was the kind of thing that meant she had been planning it for a while. Internal surveys came back with words like disconnected and out of touch, and no longer our innovative Ethan ignored the surveys. That was his first mistake. His second mistake happened at an industry mixer in November. It was one of those events where everyone circulates with warm wine and pretends the networking feels natural. Ethan had been drinking since he arrived. Vanessa had posted 3 Instagram stories from the pre-event dinner and then disappeared to talk to someone more famous. Ethan found himself at the edge of the room with 3 men he vaguely knew from conference circuits, feeling the particular loneliness of someone who has confused being surrounded by people with being connected to them. Someone mentioned Sofia's name. One of the men, an account director at a competing agency, said something about her restaurant campaign. Really smart work. Authentic. The kind of thing that's hard to teach, and something ugly moved through Ethan Cole. Something he should have recognized for what it was, guilt wearing the mask of contempt, and addressed privately, in a therapist office, like an adult. Instead, he laughed. She got lucky, he said. His voice was louder than he intended. The scotch had made the edges of his judgment soft. One campaign and everyone acts like she invented marketing. Real bodies, real victory. He made a dismissive sound. It's feel-good nonsense. It'll be dead in a year. One of the women in the small circle, someone he didn't recognize, frowned. Isn't she the mother of your child? Ethan's jaw tightened. She trapped me with that kid, he said. Classic move. Get pregnant, lock down the wealthy guy. I was smart enough not to let it work. He didn't notice the phone. He didn't notice the woman 3 feet to his left with her screen angled quietly in his direction. He didn't notice any of it. Sofia was feeding Liam at 7 a.m. The next morning when her phone started ringing, Michelle first. Then 2 numbers she didn't recognize, then Michelle again. Sofia, turn on your phone. Check Twitter. My hands are full. What's happening? There's a video of Ethan from last night. He's drunk and he's talking about you and Liam, and Michelle paused. Honey, it's bad for him, not for you. It's very, very bad for him. Sofia put the call on speaker, opened Twitter with her thumb. Ethan Cole was trending at number 2 nationally. She found the video in under 30 seconds, watched it with Liam still nursing, his blue eyes blinking up at her, completely unaware that somewhere on the internet his father was dismantling whatever remained of his own reputation in real time. She trapped me with that kid. Classic move. Sofia watched it once, then she set her phone face down on the table. She looked at her son, at his perfect face, his dark curls, his father's blue eyes that had nothing to do with his father's choices and everything to do with just being Liam, just being this specific, extraordinary small person who deserved better than to be called that kid by a drunk man at a party. She picked her phone back up, forwarded the video to 5 industry contacts, no caption, no comment, just sent. Then she opened her client inbox. By noon, 4 new inquiries had arrived. By 3 p.m., 6 more. By 5 p.m., Ethan's board had called an emergency session. By the following Monday, Cabay Industries had released a statement about leadership review and organizational restructuring, which was the corporate language for "we are trying to manage the fallout of our CEO calling his infant son a trap at a public event while apparently quite drunk." The statement did not help. Sofia did not post about it, did not comment, did not give a single interview about Ethan Cole or what he had said or what their history was. She was too busy. Walsh Collective had just signed its fourth major client. She had hired 2 full-time employees. She had moved them into a 1-bedroom apartment in a better building. Liam had his own corner now, deep blue walls, a second-hand rocking chair, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling that she had positioned herself on a Tuesday night after he fell asleep. Small things, real things, a life being built one decision at a time. Then one evening, Liam asleep, apartment quiet, Sofia at her desk reviewing a campaign deck. Her phone buzzed with a Google alert she had set for Walsh Collective. Someone had written about her, not a blog post, not an industry newsletter. Forbes. The headline made her go completely still. Real bodies, real victory, how one woman's vision is quietly rewriting the rules of American brand strategy. She read it 3 times, then she put her phone down on the desk, pressed both hands flat against the surface, breathed, looked across the room at her sleeping son. "We're doing it, Liam. We're actually doing it." 2 weeks later, a man in Chicago was sitting in his private office on the 43rd floor of a glass building that carried his name on the exterior. He was reading the Forbes article, not on his phone, in the actual physical magazine, the way he read everything that mattered, slow with full attention without the distraction of notifications. His name was James Whitfield, 44 years old, self-made, the kind of quietly powerful that didn't need to announce itself. He had built his company Whitfield Capital, a private equity and brand investment firm, from nothing, starting with a $12.00 loan and a conviction that authentic stories were the most valuable asset in any market. He had been right. He read Sofia's article from beginning to end, set the magazine down, looked out at the Chicago skyline for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and called his director of acquisitions. "That Walsh Collective piece in Forbes," he said. "Find out everything about her, her background, her client list, her growth trajectory." "You thinking investment?" James Whitfield looked at the magazine on his desk. "I'm thinking she's the most interesting person I've read about in 3 years," he said. "Start there." He hung up, picked up the magazine again, looked at the photo they had used. Sofia Morgan standing in front of a campaign billboard, Liam on her hip, both of them mid-law, her braids loose over one shoulder, red lipstick perfect, diamond earrings catching the light, wearing that deep blue dress like she was born in it. He didn't know her yet, but something about that photograph, something about the way she stood, like a woman who had walked through fire and come out deciding the fire was the best thing that ever happened to her, made him put the magazine somewhere he wouldn't misplace it. "Sofia Morgan," he said quietly to the empty room, just to hear how it sounded. Sofia had no idea anyone was paying attention. She was too busy building. But attention, once given by the right person, has a way of finding you, even when you're not looking for it, even when the last thing you think you need is someone else in your story. James Whitfield was about to disagree. Some people enter your life like a storm, others enter like morning light, quiet, warm, and suddenly everywhere James Whitfield flew into New York on a Wednesday, no announcement, no entourage, just a carry-on bag, a black wool coat, and a meeting request sent through Michelle's agency the previous Friday that had made Sofia stare at her screen for a full 30 seconds before responding. "Whitfield Capital wants a meeting." She had Googled him immediately, 44 years old. Self-made billionaire, built Whitfield Capital from a $12,000 loan into one of the most respected brand investment firms in the country, known in the industry for 2 things: finding talent before the market caught up and never, not once, investing in something he didn't genuinely believe in. No scandals, no viral moments, no ex-partners going to the press, just work, integrity, results. Sofia had read 3 articles about him, closed her laptop and told herself not to be impressed before she had even shaken his hand. She was already a little impressed. They met at a coffee shop in Midtown, not his office, not hers, a corner table at a place that was quiet enough to talk and public enough that Sofia felt steady. She had learned in the past 2 years to choose her environments carefully, to never walk into a room that someone else had designed to make her feel small. She arrived 5 minutes early, box braids loose over one shoulder, red lipstick, black eyeliner, diamond studs catching the light. Her deep blue structured dress, the one she wore when she needed to feel like the most capable version of herself. Because she had learned that armor came in many forms, and there was nothing wrong with wearing yours beautifully. James Whitfield walked in at exactly the meeting time, not early, not late, exactly on time, which told her something about him, but before he said a word, he was tall. Dark brown skin, clean fade, broad shoulders under a perfectly fitted charcoal coat. Deep dark eyes that were warm in a way she hadn't expected from someone whose net worth had 7 zeros attached to it. He spotted her immediately, crossed the room without looking around like a man who needed to be seen, and extended his hand. Sofia Morgan. The way he said her name, not like a greeting, like a confirmation of something, made her sit up slightly straighter. James Whitfield, she said. Sit down. He smiled. Sat, ordered black coffee, no fuss, no performance. I read the Forbes piece, he said, wrapping both hands around his mug. Then I read everything else I could find about Walsh Collective. Then I had my team pull your growth data for the past 18 months. And, Sofia asked, and I think you're building something that the industry doesn't have a category for yet, he said simply, which is usually where the most important work lives. Sofia looked at him. She had been in enough meetings with enough powerful men to know the difference between genuine attention and performance. Ethan had taught her that particular lesson more thoroughly than she would have liked. James Whitfield was paying genuine attention. She could feel the difference in her bones. What exactly are you proposing? She asked. I want to invest in Walsh Collective, not a controlling stake. I don't want your company. I want to fund its next stage of growth. New hires, expanded client capacity, office space that isn't, he paused diplomatically, a one-bedroom in Midtown. Sofia's jaw tightened slightly. You researched my address. I researched your operation, he said, without apology but also without aggression. I do that with every potential investment. I needed to understand how you built what you built with what you had. Honestly, Sofia, what you've done in 18 months with essentially no resources is the most impressive thing I've seen in this industry in a decade. Silence. Sofia turned her coffee cup once in her hands. I don't need saving, she said. Good, James said, because I'm not offering that. I'm offering capital. There's a difference. She looked at him for a long moment. He held her gaze evenly. No manipulation in it. No angle she could detect. Just a man sitting across a table saying what he meant, waiting for her to decide what she thought about it. I'll have my lawyer review whatever you're proposing, she said finally. And I want full creative control. Non-negotiable. Asterisk. Already in the term sheet, he said. I haven't agreed to anything yet. I know, I put it in there anyway. The corner of her mouth moved. Almost a smile. She didn't let it become one. Not yet. The investment closed 6 weeks later. Walsh Collective moved into a proper office space in Midtown. Real desks, real conference room, real address. Sofia hired 4 full-time employees, Jordan, her lead designer, Simone, her social strategist, Trevor, accounts, and Claudia, a senior strategist who had worked at Ogilvy for 8 years and wanted to build something that actually meant something. Liam moved into a proper bedroom, deep blue walls, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. A bookshelf she filled with every book she had wanted as a child and never had. She bought herself real health insurance, started a college fund, went 1 whole week without lying awake at 3 a.m. calculating whether the numbers would hold. James came to New York twice a month for investment reviews. They were professional, structured. Sofia kept them that way deliberately, but she noticed things, the way he always asked about Liam at the start of every meeting. Not performatively, not as small talk, but like a man who had been paying attention and actually wanted to know. The way he listened when she talked about campaign strategy, not waiting for his turn to speak, actually listening, the way very few people did. The way he never once suggested she do anything differently than she was doing it, never implied her instincts needed correcting, never looked at her the way men sometimes looked at successful women, with that subtle, searching expression that said, yes, but how long can this last? He just believed in the work, which meant unavoidably that he believed in her. Sofia was not ready for that. She was not ready for how much that simple, uncomplicated belief meant to a woman who had spent 3 years proving herself to a world that had started with the assumption she couldn't. She kept the boundaries firm, kept things professional, told herself that was the right call, mostly believed it. 8 months after the investment closed, Walsh Collective won the pitch for Madison & Cole, a struggling national retail chain in the middle of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and the campaign Sofia built for them stopped the industry cold American families. American dreams, real people, real homes, real lives, mothers, blended families, grandparents raising grandchildren, love in all the forms it actually existed in rather than the forms advertising had decided it was supposed to. The campaign launched on a Tuesday in March, and by Thursday it was everywhere. Billboards, magazines, morning shows, social media feeds. Madison & Cole's website crashed twice from traffic. Their stock jumped 11% in the first week. And in the middle of the campaign, one photograph became the image everyone talked about: Sofia and Liam, captured by the photographer mid-law, Liam's small hands cupping his mother's face, both of them in that perfect, unguarded moment of pure joy. It ran on billboards in 15 cities. It ran in 3 national magazines. It ran on the Madison & Cole homepage for 6 months straight. People stopped Sofia on the street to tell her it had made them cry. She never got used to it. James called her the morning after the campaign launched. "How does it feel?" he asked. Sofia was standing at her apartment window with her coffee, looking at the city that had watched her build herself back from nothing. "Like I always knew I could do it," she said. "And like I can't believe it took believing that for it to actually happen." A pause. "For what it's worth," James said quietly, "I believed it before you did." Sofia closed her eyes briefly. "James, I know," he said. "Professional boundaries, I know, Sofia. I just needed to say it once." She didn't respond, but she didn't say don't either. 3 weeks later, at an industry gala at the Art Institute of Chicago, Walsh Collective nominated for Brand Innovation of the Year. Sofia walked into the room on her own, in an emerald silk dress, braids pinned up with gold pins, diamonds at her ears, red lipstick flawless, and saw Ethan Cole standing by the bar. He looked terrible, not the kind of terrible that happened quickly, the kind that accumulated: too much drinking, not enough sleep, the particular hollowness of a man who had confused his identity with his net worth, and was now discovering what happened when the net worth started going. His suit was still expensive. It hung wrong. He saw her at the same moment she saw him, and something moved across his face that Sofia had never seen there before. Recognition, the real kind, the kind that come too late. She turned away first, walked to her table, sat with her team, laughed at something Claudia said, accepted the award when they called her name, gave a speech she had not prepared because the prepared one felt too safe. 3 years ago, she said, standing at the podium looking out at the room, someone told me I wasn't beautiful anymore. He was talking about my body. But what he was really saying was, you are no longer useful to me. You no longer fit the image I need. Complete silence in the room. I believed him for about 6 hours, she said. Then I had my son, and he looked at me like I was the whole world. And I understood something I should have always known, that beauty is not what you look like when everything is perfect. Beauty is what you build when someone tells you you're broken. The room stood up, all of it, every person, on their feet. Sofia looked out at 300 people applauding and felt something settle inside her, deep and permanent and unshakable, like a foundation being poured. She looked down at the award in her hands. Then she looked up. James Whitfield was standing at the back of the room. He hadn't been on the guest list. She knew because she had seen the guest list he had come anyway. Their eyes met across 300 people. He didn't smile, didn't wave, didn't do anything that would make it a moment she had to respond to publicly. He just looked at her the way a person looks at something they have believed in from the beginning and are watching be proven right. Sofia looked back at him for exactly 3 seconds. Then she looked away. But for the rest of the night, through the dinner and the networking and the car ride home and Liam's sleepy voice on FaceTime when she called to say good night, she felt those 3 seconds sitting somewhere in her chest. Quiet. warm, refusing to leave. Meanwhile, across the gala room, Ethan Cole watched Sofia Morgan accept an award that used to have his name on it. He watched her stand at that podium and talk about the night he had destroyed her without ever saying his name. He watched the room give her a standing ovation, and he felt something he had not felt since the night she walked out of his elevator. Regret, not the surface kind, not the "I wish I had handled that better" kind, the deep, structural kind, the kind that rewires something in you permanently, the kind that doesn't get better with another drink or another woman or another business deal. He had thrown her away, and she had turned the throwing into flight. He finished his drink alone at the bar, ordered another, thought about his son. Liam, a name he had finally started letting himself say in his own head, now almost 2 years old, walking probably, talking probably, becoming a person in the world without him. He thought about what he had said at that mixer, "She trapped me with that kid." He thought about the video, the trending hashtag, the board meeting, the consulting position that was really just a paid disappearance. He thought about all of it, and then he did something he had not done in 38 years of being Ethan Cole. He took out his phone, opened his contacts, found the number for a therapist his doctor had recommended 4 months ago that he had never called. He stared at it for a long time, then he pressed call. It went to voicemail. "This is Dr. Patricia Wells. Leave a message and I'll return your call within 1 business day." Ethan cleared his throat. "My name is Ethan Cole," he said. I think I need some help." He hung up, stood alone at the bar of a room full of people who used to want to talk to him. Outside the gala windows, Chicago blazed with light that had no idea how small it made everything feel. Sofia drove home that night with the award on her passenger seat. Liam was asleep when she checked on him. She stood in his doorway for a long time just watching him breathe. Somewhere in the city, Ethan Cole was leaving a voicemail for a therapist. Somewhere in the city, James Whitfield was in a car heading back to his hotel. He sent her one text before he turned his phone off for the night. "You were extraordinary tonight." Sofia read it standing in Liam's doorway. She typed back 2 words, "I know." Then she smiled, first real smile in longer than she wanted to admit, and went to bed. But the story wasn't over, not even close. Because in 4 weeks at a mall in Manhattan on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, all 3 of their lives were going to collide in the same moment, in front of everyone, and nothing would ever be the same again. It was the kind of Tuesday that had no reason to matter, no anniversary, no milestone, no date circled on any calendar, just a regular afternoon in late October, leaves turning gold outside. Manhattan doing its usual thing of being beautiful and indifferent simultaneously, and Sofia Morgan was at Westfield Mall in Midtown because Liam needed new sneakers, specifically light-up sneakers, specifically the ones with the dinosaurs on the side that lit up green when he stomped his feet. He had been talking about them for 3 weeks, had described them to Maria in detail, had drawn a picture of them, crayon, slightly abstract, unmistakably sneakers, and stuck it to the refrigerator with a dinosaur magnet like a formal request that could not be ignored. Sofia had a board presentation in 2 hours. Walsh Collective was closing its biggest deal yet, a full rebrand for a Fortune 500 consumer goods company that would put them in a completely different category of agency. James had flown in from Chicago for the meeting. Her team had been preparing for 3 weeks, but Liam had asked for the sneakers, and Sofia Morgan did not break promises to her son, so sneakers first, board presentation second, in that order, because that was the order that mattered. She looked the way she always looked, box braids pinned up with gold pins, a few loose strands near her jaw, deep brown eyes behind the kind of calm that only comes from having survived something and built something and decided, consciously, deliberately, that you were done apologizing for taking up space. Red lipstick, black eyeliner, diamond studs, a structured deep blue coat over her presentation outfit because she was going straight from the mall to the boardroom, and she had learned years ago that the woman who walked into a room set the tone before she opened her mouth. Liam walked beside her, holding her hand. 3 years old now, warm brown skin and dark curls, and his father's blue eyes blinking up at everything with that specific curiosity of a child who had decided the world was fundamentally fascinating and intended to investigate all of it. He was wearing his current favorite shirt, trucks, obviously, and the soon-to-be replaced sneakers that had begun to bore him now that he knew the dinosaur ones existed. "Mama, are we getting them today? That's why we're here, baby." "The green ones." Asterisk the green ones. "That light up? That light up." He pumped his free fist. Sofia smiled. The children's shoe store was on the second level. They took the escalator up, Liam holding the rail with both hands, deeply serious about escalator safety in the way that 3-year-olds are deeply serious about things they have been told once, and Sofia was looking at her phone, scrolling through the final deck for the presentation, when she heard it, a laugh. She knew that laugh. She had spent 3 years teaching herself not to flinch at sounds that reminded her of it, and she was mostly successful, but this was not a sound that merely reminded her. This was the actual laugh. She looked up. Ethan Cole was standing outside a men's clothing store 20 feet away. He wasn't alone. A younger woman stood beside him, pretty, polished, the kind of effortlessly put together that suggested significant disposable income and significant time to spend it. They were looking at something in the store window, and Ethan was laughing at something she had said, and for one fraction of a second Sofia saw the version of him she had fallen in love with, charming, magnetic, lighting up a room just by existing in it. Then she blinked, and she saw the rest of it. He was thinner than she remembered, not in a healthy way. The expensive suit was doing its best, but it couldn't hide the fact that the man wearing it had lost something from the inside. His face had lines she didn't remember. His eyes, when they moved and landed on her, which they did almost immediately, the way eyes find the one specific thing in a crowd that they are most afraid to see, those ice blue eyes, older now, something different in them that she couldn't immediately name. They stared at each other across 20 feet of mall corridor, Liam completely unaware that the universe had just shifted slightly on its axis, stomped one foot to check whether his current sneakers lit up satisfactorily. They did not meet his standards. "Mama." "Sneakers," he said. "1 second, baby," Sofia said. Ethan walked toward her. She watched him come and felt nothing dramatic. That was the thing that surprised her most. Not the thunderclap of old love she had half expected. Not the heat of old anger either. Just a quiet, clear, slightly sad recognition, like seeing a place you used to live and realizing it no longer had any claim on you. Sofia, the woman he'd been with, had drifted tactfully toward a nearby store window. Smart. Sofia noted it without caring. Ethan's eyes dropped to Liam, and something happened to his face. Sofia had never seen it happen before. Not to Ethan Cole, who had always kept every reaction on the right side of controlled, but she watched it happen now, and there was nothing performative about it. His jaw worked. His eyes went glassy. His whole carefully maintained composure cracked like something had hit it from the inside. He was looking at his son for the first time. Liam looked back up at him with uncomplicated curiosity. "Hi," Liam said. "Hey, buddy," Ethan managed. His voice came out different than Sofia had ever heard it. Rough at the edges, the voice of a man holding himself very carefully together. Liam considered him for a moment with those 3-year-old blue eyes, his father's eyes, in his mother's face, and apparently decided he seemed fine. "Do you know where the dinosaur sneakers are?" Liam asked him. A sound escaped Ethan that was almost a laugh and almost something else entirely. "I don't, buddy. I'm sorry." "That's okay," Liam said generously. "Mama knows." "Yeah," Ethan said softly. "I bet she does." Sofia looked at Ethan. He looked back at her, and she could see it, the full weight of everything he had done and everything it had cost him, sitting right there behind his eyes, not hidden, not managed, just present and heavy and real. She thought about the night in the penthouse, the checkbook, the child, the laugh when she told him he'd regret it. She thought about the parking garage, 6% battery, rain. She thought about 3:47 a.m. and Liam's first cry and Bethany's hand, and every single night she had built something while the world slept and nobody was coming, and she had done it anyway. She thought about James, about what it had felt like to be around a man who had looked at everything she was. All of it, the empire and the struggle and the son and the history, and simply decided she was worth believing in. She thought about all of it in approximately 4 seconds. Then she said quietly, so Liam couldn't hear, "You look like you're doing better." Ethan blinked. He had clearly not expected that. I am, he said carefully, 14 months sober. Therapy, I'm actually working at a youth center. Teaching design, Sofia nodded slowly. Good. Usk, Sofia, Ethan. She said his name gently but clearly. A door closing, not slamming. Whatever you're about to say, I believe you mean it. I do. But I need you to understand something. He went still. You don't get to come back from what you did by being sorry, she said. Sorry is the beginning, not the destination. If you want to be part of his life, and I'm not saying that door is closed, you earn it, one day at a time. Through a lawyer, through a proper agreement, through showing up consistently when it's inconvenient and boring and hard. Not at a mall, not like this. I know, he said. I know that. Do you? Yes, his voice was steady. I do. I'm not here to ask for anything, Sofia. I saw you and I. He stopped, looked at Liam, who was now examining a displaces nearby with profound interest. He's incredible. Yes, Sofia said simply. He is. You did that. We both know I did. A pause. Something passed between them, not warmth exactly, but the quiet acknowledgement of two people who had shared something enormous and survived it differently. The Forbes piece, Ethan said. The campaign, the award. I followed all of it. I know, Sofia said. He looked at her. Are you happy? She didn't hesitate. Yes, she said. I really am. His eyes moved to something behind her. Sofia turned. James Whitfield was walking toward them across the mall corridor. He had texted 20 minutes ago, finishing a call, "We'll meet you before the presentation." And she had forgotten, in the escalator sneaker Ethan collision of the last 10 minutes, that he was coming. He was wearing a black coat, clean fade, that quiet confidence that didn't need a room to notice it. He spotted her immediately. Then he spotted the man standing with her. His pace didn't change, his expression didn't shift. He just walked toward her steadily, the way he did everything. He reached them, looked at Sofia first. A quick private check, "Are you okay?" that he communicated entirely without words. She answered the same way. Yes, then he looked at Ethan, and Ethan looked at him. Sofia watched Ethan's face in the moment he understood it wasn't dramatic. No jaw dropping, no visible collapse. Just a quiet, terrible comprehension moving across his features as he took in James Whitfield, the stature, the stillness, the way he had walked directly to Sofia's side and stood there like a man who had every right to be exactly where he was. "Ethan," Sofia said. "This is James." James extended his hand. James Whitfield. Ethan shook it. "Ethan Cole." James nodded once. No recognition performed, no dominance asserted. Just a man who knew exactly who he was and had nothing to prove to anyone standing in a mall on a Tuesday. Liam appeared at Sofia's side, having concluded his shoelace investigation. He looked up at James. "James, did you know they have dinosaur sneakers here?" "I did not know that," James said, his voice warming completely. "That sounds like important information." "It is," Liam confirmed seriously. "Mama's getting me some. Green ones that light up," James said. "I heard." Liam pointed at him. "You remembered." "I always remember the important things," James said. Liam grabbed his hand and began pulling him toward the shoe store with the confident authority of a 3-year-old who had decided the matter was settled. James let himself be pulled, looked back at Sofia over his shoulder with an expression that was equal parts helpless and completely content. Sofia watched them go. Then she looked at Ethan one last time. He was watching James and Liam disappear into the shoe store. His face was very still, the face of a man doing the painful private arithmetic of understanding exactly what he had thrown away and exactly how well it had landed somewhere else. "He's good with him," Ethan said quietly. "Yes," Sofia said. "He is." Sofia. "Call on my lawyer, Ethan," she said. Not unkindly, not cruelly, just clearly. "If you want to be in Liam's life, do it right. I won't stop you, but do it right." She didn't wait for his response. She turned and walked into the shoe store. Inside, Liam was already seated on the little bench, one shoe off, explaining to a patient sales associate that the dinosaurs needed to be green specifically and the lights needed to be visible from a significant distance because his friend Cameron needed to see them from across the playground. James stood nearby, hands in his coat pockets, watching Liam with that expression Sofia had never seen on any man's face before she met him. Not indulgent, not performing, just genuinely, quietly delighted by this small person. He looked up when she walked in. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," she said. That was him. It wasn't a question. James was perceptive in ways that had stopped surprising her months ago. Yes, she said. He nodded. Didn't push, didn't ask for details. Didn't make it about anything other than what it was. A moment she had moved through and was now on the other side of. "Green ones, Mama!" Liam announced, holding up a sneaker triumphantly. "Look!" He stomped his foot on the floor. The dinosaurs lit up green. Brilliant, glowing, spectacularly green. Liam looked up at both of them with an expression of pure, absolute vindication. "Told you," he said. Sofia laughed, James laughed, and in that moment, standing in a children's shoe store on an ordinary Tuesday in October, her son's face lit up with light-up sneaker joy, the man beside her laughing like he had nowhere else on earth he'd rather be. Sofia Morgan felt it. Not the tentative, fragile thing she had been carefully protecting for months. The real thing. Warm. Built on something honest. She looked at James. He was already looking at her. "After the presentation," she said quietly. Something shifted in his eyes. That careful, patient steadiness of a man who had been waiting, not impatiently, not with pressure, just waiting. "I think so too," he said. The presentation was flawless. Walsh Collective closed the Fortune 500 deal at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October. The contract was the largest in the company's history. Sofia's team erupted. Champagne appeared from somewhere. Jordan was crying. Simone was taking pictures of everything. Sofia stood at the head of the conference table and felt the full weight of it. Every night on the floor of a 600-square-foot apartment. Every return check. Every 3 a.m. pitch written with one hand while her son slept in the other arm. Every moment someone had implied she was building something too small, too personal, too soft for the serious business of serious business. Every single step leading here, she raised her glass. "To building something real," she said. Her team raised their to Walsh Collective. Jordan said, "To real bodies and real victory." Simone added, "To the woman who started this in a one-bedroom apartment with a baby on her chest." James said from the back of the room. Everyone looked at him. He raised his glass towards Sofia. "You built something extraordinary," he said simply. "Every person in this room knows it started with you refusing to quit." Sofia looked at him across the room. "We're not done," she said. He smiled. "No," he agreed. "Not even close." That evening, Liam wore his new sneakers to dinner, stomped his feet approximately 47 times throughout the meal to make the dinosaurs light up. Explained to the waiter, in significant detail, why green was objectively the best color for light-up dinosaurs. Fell asleep in the car on the way home with both sneakers still on because removing them felt like losing something important. Sofia carried him upstairs, laid him in his bed with the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, sat on the edge of the mattress for a moment just watching him breathe, this extraordinary small person she had built her entire world around, and would do it again without a second thought. His sneakers were still on. She left them. Downstairs, James was waiting. They sat on the couch with coffee going cold on the table between them, the city glowing through the windows, and Sofia told him everything. Not the polished version she had told in speeches. The real version, the parking garage, the 6% battery, the 3 a.m. floor, the returned checks, the fear she had never told anyone about, the specific terror of loving someone this much and being the only thing standing between them and the world. James listened all of it. Then he said, "I know, you know. I read the Forbes article 14 times, Sofia. I know what it cost you. I've been watching you carry it alone for 2 years. He paused. "You don't have to anymore." She looked at him. You don't need saving." He said, "I know. You've built the proof of that across 15 cities on billboards. I'm not offering that." "Then what are you offering?" He looked at her steadily. "Just me," he said, showing up consistently. "For as long as you'll let me." Quiet. The city breathed outside. Upstairs, Liam slept with his dinosaur sneakers on. Sofia looked at James Whitfield, this man who had found her in a Forbes article and flown to New York and sat across a coffee shop table and said, "I'm not here to rescue you," and then proceeded, for 2 quiet years, to simply stay, who had stood in a children's shoe store and let a 3-year-old drag him toward light-up sneakers without a moment of hesitation, who had raised a glass tonight not to himself, not to the deal, but to her. "Okay," she said. "Okay." Asterisk, don't make it complicated, she said. The corner of her mouth moved. Okay. 3 weeks later, Ethan Cole called her lawyer. He did it right, properly, a formal agreement, supervised visits to start, consistent, structured, no drama. He showed up to the first visit 10 minutes early with a small toy truck because he had remembered, somehow from somewhere, that Liam loved trucks. Liam accepted the truck with the diplomatic graciousness of a child who had been raised to find the good in people. Thank you. Liam said, "You're welcome, buddy." Ethan said it was not a movie moment. There was no swelling music. Just two people beginning something difficult and necessary and real. Sofia watched from across the room and felt nothing but something clean. A year later, at a foundation gala for single mothers in business, an event Walsh Collective funded and Sofia ran personally, she stood at the podium and looked out at 300 women. Women who had started over. Women who had been told they were too much and not enough. Asterisk, women who had built things in the dark when nobody was watching. I was told I wasn't beautiful anymore, Sofia said. At 8 months pregnant, by a man who confused beauty with convenience. He was wrong, but I want to thank him. The room went quiet. Asterisk, because the night he sent me out into the rain alone, that was the night I found out what I was made of. And it turned out, she smiled, I was made of exactly the right things. The room erupted. In the front row, Liam sat between James and Bethany, wearing his light-up sneakers, new ones now, blue, because he had decided blue was his color. He stomped his feet. The lights flashed. He looked up at James. She's the best, right? James looked at Sofia at the podium. Yeah, buddy, he said. She really is. Ethan Cole learned that beauty was never about appearance. James Whitfield knew it from the beginning. Lam Morgan grew up never doubting it for a single day. And Sofia Morgan. She had known it all along. She just needed one rainy night, one parking garage, and one 6% battery to